Look at how tiny the text is.
Oh my god, no, there's like textbook.
I know. Why does she assume I have brain cells for this? Giving away 5 free books to anyone who needs to pass the time during quarantine because Book of the Month is sponsoring this video. Book of the Month is a subscription service where every month they choose the 5 best new releases and you get to pick your favorite book to be delivered to your door. There's a wide range of genres and diverse authors, and it's a great way to discover new books for a cheap price. I have April's selections with me, and they are The Library of Legends by Janie Chang, Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore, The Guest List by Lucy Foley, The Paris Hours by Alex George, and Beach Read by Emily Henry. The giveaway link will be in my description, but if you want these books guaranteed, you can also sign up for your first box for $9.99 using my code ReadWithCindy. All right. Onto the video. So Chanelle is over here at my place just to self-quarantine, and so we are safe. We have practiced social distancing, so we will not be infecting each other or other people.
Just so the world knows.
Yes, we are still social distancing responsibly.
And washing our hands.
While social distancing, I actually have read fewer books than I normally would. Most people would be reading more books during quarantine, but I actually read the majority of my books while commuting. But now I only commute from my bed to my desk, so there's been no time for me to read.
You're like, a bus route where?
This would have been a short wrap up, but fortunately Chanelle's with me. She has read 4 out of the 5 books I've read this month. 2 of the books that I've read, we have opposite opinions on.
Yeah, that's true.
And then 2 of the other books, we have the same opinions on. So I think it would be interesting to see what we have in common and what we thought differently. First book that I read is The Diviners by Leba Bray. This is a YA paranormal book that takes place in the 1920s.
Yes.
The main character is Evie O'Neill, who is kind of like this party girl, but she has a supernatural ability where she can read objects. So if she touches objects that formerly belonged to you, she'll be able to know your secrets or see the last thing that you saw. Throughout the book, there are a series of murders, and she is able to use her powers to figure out who the serial killer is. And so it's like a combination of like roaring 20s with supernatural, creepy shit. This is the book that we have opposite opinions on.
Dude, yeah, I'm so shocked. I thought you would love it.
You rate this 5 stars, right?
Yeah, this book, okay.
Can't relate.
This book was honestly amazing to me because I hadn't got to a point where I'd read something that was like scary and also kind of like—
Wait, you thought this was scary?
It was scary. Like, I was like,
you know what was scary? How many pages I had to read to get through that shit.
No, I mean, I'll agree. It's too long.
Sheet thick. I think The Diviners could have been 300 pages
max.
Yeah.
If they had condensed everything, it definitely could have been in the 300s or 400s, but I listened to the audiobook. Did you read it physically?
I started with the audiobook because everyone raved about it.
Oh no.
But then I was like, no, switch back to physical. Because I prefer to read physically, but I was curious about the audio, so I was like, I'll just give it a try, see what the narrative is about. And then once I heard like her voices, I was like, okay, I get what she's all about. I'm gonna switch back to physical.
Okay.
I still think I wouldn't really have cared for it even if I listened to the audio though.
Yeah, because the audiobook scared me because when they're singing the Dirty John song, it's freaky.
Really?
Like in the audiobook, it's like,
Dirty John.
and you're like, and it took me like 3 weeks to read it because the audiobook is like 20-something hours. And so I'd be like, I'm scared. Like I could not listen to this book at night because I felt like Dirty John was gonna come for me. So
He's so dirty.
Yeah, it's weird because like I haven't read a book like that before, so I was freaked. Ooh.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Wait, Naughty John was his name? Right?
Dirty John.
Oh, Dirty
Wasn't
John?
it Dirty? No.
Wasn't it Naughty John? Ooh, fake reader. And he was released because a bunch of white people were at a party and were like, ooh, let's play with the Ouija board.
I feel like people should not play with anything like that because
I would be the dumb bitch that would play with them.
I would. I'd be like, I'm leaving. Don't associate me with those stupids. Bye.
I actually have an Ouija board. We should pull it out for the video. No, I'm just kidding.
You scared me. I was like,
I rated this 2.5 stars. I feel like I really missed out on this. I know everyone really liked it, but I just was not feeling it at all. I think it's because the entire first book was basically a setup for like the rest of the series. It has so much that she tried to cram in
one book, yeah.
And I think if she had condensed it to 300 pages and instead of introducing so many characters, really focus on like the central characters to really develop them more. When I first read it, it was very clear like what the archetypes of each character were without much depth.
Yeah.
So I just felt very bored throughout.
One thing I think think she should have done better was not giving us too much about each character in the beginning. We didn't need to know everyone's backstories. We could have just known Evie's and then gone to the second book.
What's interesting is that some of my opinions about the characters are different from like most people's opinions. So for example, a lot of people don't like the main character Evie.
I loved her!
The main critique for her character was that they just thought that she was super annoying because throughout the story, there are these murders that happen. And then her uncle's like, don't mess with this. And then she's like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Anyways, she's like, y'all heard something?
And then her uncle finds out. He's like, what'd you do? Okay, don't do this. And then she's like, so a lot of people just think that she's just like a dumb bitch that just does whatever she wants to do.
They think she's stupid with no plan, but I actually liked her character.
I feel like it was necessary for her to be a dumb hoe in order for the story to advance.
Yeah.
I didn't mind her being a dumb hoe. That's representation for us.
When you're an idiot, so you need to see yourself in the book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was kind of interested in Jericho, but a lot of people thought that he was like dry and boring.
Honestly, Jericho and Evie were my favorite characters. Like, in
wow.
the whole book.
You know what? That's so interesting because we have the opposite opinions on like the book itself, but the characters were like,
I loved their characters so much. I thought Jericho brought a lot of like interesting vibes to the story. Jericho is the one poor black kid.
No, he's not. No.
Who is that guy?
Memphis.
Oh, never mind. Just kidding. It's not Jericho. It's Memphis. Fake reader.
Jericho is like that big buff dude.
Oh, I liked him too.
Okay, good.
Okay, then I'm guessing top 3.
Basically, I just didn't care for it, but I'm glad that there is a dumb hoe like Evie to represent us. After that, I read The Wives by Taryn Fisher. This is a thriller book about a girl named Thursday. She is married to a guy who has 2 other wives that he sees on Monday and Wednesday.
Yes.
And she's Thursday. They're like in a polygamous relationship. The wives can't meet each other.
Yeah, they can't meet each other, but they know about each other's existence.
Yeah, they agree to not meet each other or know about who their names are so that they wouldn't get jealous. Yeah. It's just like divided time that each of them have with this one guy. We follow the main character, Thursday. She starts to get suspicious about what her husband is hiding and who the other 2 wives are. And she starts investigating the identities of those wives and figuring out like what their marriages are like.
I'm about to puke.
She starts to unravel some secrets and question the true character of her husband.
Oh, I'm getting flashbacks!
I read this book because you read it, and then you were like, Cindy, this book is so bad, and then that's what made me bump it up to my TBR. Because I was like, okay, how bad can it be? Because if Chanelle says it's bad,
that's saying something. So I was like, if you guys give this 5 stars, it's on site.
I was just super curious because you made it sound so awful. You were telling me that you were ready to give it 5 stars. Halfway through, something happened that made you just want to flip the table and you rated it 1 star. It made me so curious, like how can someone descend so quickly into madness? We both rated 1 star.
1 whopping star is all it deserves.
I feel like, you know, a book is bad if both of us.
Yeah, or like 1 star.
Because we usually disagree on like books.
Especially thrillers. I think we usually disagree on thrillers.
I think I'm gonna have to film a separate video for this to really talk about everything that happened. The reason I cannot say why I rated 1 star is because
it's a huge spoiler.
It's a huge spoiler. It really has to do with the twist. The twist is just so cheap and badly done. And it just turns into this whole soap opera of these characters acting so ridiculous. In the first half, I was like, you know, this isn't so bad. It's like, okay, I would rate it 3 stars. And then I read to the halfway point where I was like, oh.
You're like, this is what she was talking about.
We're going down this route. Dude. Okay. I feel like with the wives, you have to pull out a whiteboard and you like,
and like write everything down. You're like,
wait a minute. I remember this one part. This isn't a spoiler because I'm going to say it out of context. So one of the characters gets in a wheelchair and then the other character who sees that one in the wheelchair, she's like, well, at least they'll never be able to make a baby. And I'm like, bro, what?
I read that. I was like, I hate it here.
I'm like, is this allowed? That's not even mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you can't make a baby. And also, what an asshole. Like, there could have been so many alternate paths it could have taken for it to be like a really good book. It could have done a great commentary on like women and relationships, but it didn't. Remember when I texted you my theory about what the twist would be?
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been better.
That would have been, there are so many good things that could have been done with this book, and the author was just kind of like, let's go this route.
Let's go like the easiest laziest route ever.
Yep.
With no creativity.
Like, lazy.
If you're curious, you can check it out. If not, I'll talk about it more in my video review.
Yeah.
The next book that I read was The Couple Next Door. I read this because Angela was reading it and I wanted to buddy read it with her.
Yeah.
This is the book that we had opposite opinions on. You rated this 5 stars, right?
I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars.
Okay.
It might have been a 4, but I loved this one. It just didn't like wow me, but I loved it.
There's this couple, the synopsis is already so stupid because they left their fucking baby in the house. Okay, sorry. They go to like a little intimate dinner party to their neighbor's place. They decided to leave their baby at home because they couldn't find a babysitter. And so they were like, well, because we're gonna be right next door, it's gonna be fine. We'll just put like the baby monitor and we'll check every half an hour. But that night, when they finally get home, their baby is gone. So somebody took the baby and they're like, oh my God, what happened? It basically revolves around the main couple, the detectives, and the other couple that was next door that they visited. By the way, they were
that couple.
I rated this 1 star. I was so turned off by the stupidity of everybody's actions. Yeah. I thought every character was so annoying and such a caricature. The mom was like in hysterics the entire time.
She was like my least favorite character. Oh, rich people tears.
And I don't think she ever did anything that was productive or useful.
She didn't. She was like crying.
And every time she had a problem, she was like, it's okay, I'll ask my parents for money.
And then her parents were like, our poor rich queen.
The husband was a scrub. Both Angela and I did not like the husband at all. He was literally like the stupidest character. Every time he made a decision, you could tell right away that something bad was going to happen because it was a stupid decision.
Yeah, he was an idiot.
He meets a stranger and whatever the stranger says,
he's like, I will do it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. I just met you, but I'll go ahead and risk it all. I didn't like how the whole plot happened because the characters had to be ridiculously stupid for it to happen in the first place. I just want people with brain cells. Also, the detectives were super unprofessional. The mom had postpartum depression, and then the detectives were like, she has postpartum depression. That means she might have killed her baby.
That must be her.
And I'm like, yo, she's just depressed.
Yeah, like, and I think that like shows really bad ideas about women who do have postpartum depression. Yeah. It's like, not every woman who has postpartum depression is gonna be like, let me kill my baby.
The detectives are aggro as fuck for no reason. The neighbor lady, her whole personality was just being a skank. And then the neighbor husband, his whole personality was just being a cuck. That's why I gave it 1 star. Angela gave it 2 stars.
Your 1 and 2 stars are very valid.
Yeah, so the thriller books I read this month,
The
4th book that I read was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And this one, we had pretty similar opinions on.
Yeah, we did.
We both rated it 3 stars.
Yep.
This is the 2nd Harry Potter book. We've been reading this for the first time. We're gonna try to trudge through the series together. We weren't really a fan of the first book. It was probably like 2.5 or 2 stars. We liked this one better.
Yeah, definitely.
We bumped it up to 3 this time. So, you know, progress. This is kind of like a cute little middle grade book that's more about like a mystery.
They're trying to figure out who opened the Chamber of Secrets.
Harry is concerned that he has something to do with it because part of like the subplot is him questioning whether he should have been in Slytherin or in Gryffindor. Because when he first got sorted, the hat was going to put him in Slytherin.
Yeah, the hat was like debating about where he should be.
But he was like, don't put me in Slytherin, put me in Gryffindor. And then Hat was like, all right, okay. The whole book, he's questioning about like his character. And I thought that was an interesting part of the book because it kind of shows like the gray morality of people. People can't be easily categorized into one
you
thing.
can't just say someone's a Slytherin or someone's this or someone's that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to add a little bit of depth to Harry's character because you know he needs it.
He needs a little bit of extra flavor.
The book had a stronger start to me because we weren't stuck with Harry the whole time. Yeah. He was whisked away by Ron and the twins and the Weasleys, and the Weasleys are like the best.
I love the Weasleys.
I love the twins.
So funny and adorable. I'm like,
yeah, like, so we were stuck with Harry and his boring ass house with the Dudleys and his fat shaming. And then the twins come in with a car that they stole and whisk him away. And I'm like, this is so cute. Now that the world has been established in the first book, we can better enjoy the other characters because we're not stuck with Harry the whole time. We get to see like how the world gets expanded with all these secrets and also the other cast of characters. Wait, is this? Oh, that's Ginny. Oh, okay. By the way, I don't care for Ginny. I just think, I don't know, she's just there, because I don't really care for those. Okay, well, I don't care for Ginny, and I don't care for Neville.
Okay, who cares about Neville?
I just don't like that personality type where they're like, oh my God.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I want to say something, but I'm scared. I think with Ginny, I kind of understand why she was like that, because she has like these older brothers, so she's like, you know, brought up being like afraid to speak her mind, because
I can see that.
She's around like all these loud brothers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then also she's younger than them.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like, oh, is it my place? I don't understand Neville. Like, he's everybody. Like, he's the same age as everyone else.
Why people like Neville. He must be doing something.
He has to have done something like really amazing further in the series, because right now he's like really useless and boring.
For Ginny, why I don't like her is because most of her personality so far is just having a crush on Harry.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing for me to relate to. I didn't like that Hermione barely played a role in this book. She was purposely taken out of the book for a majority of the time, because if she was present the whole time, then she would have solved the whole mystery right away. I think the charm of the book is just seeing the trio work together. And so if you take out like a central player, especially if it's just like a plot device to take her out, then that kind of cheapens it. Another part that I thought was cheap was like at the end when the antagonist shows up, he goes through this whole monologue about like everything that he's done and what he's planning to do. So it was just super cartoonish. But I get it because it's middle grade, so I'm trying not to be too harsh on it.
Yeah, I think that's like the bottom line thing, is that this is kind of something that you'd really enjoy if you're like 11 or 12.
The fifth book that I read.
Ooh.
I'm actually in the middle of reading this right now, but I'm close to finishing it. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna rate this 3 stars. So this is like a fantasy YA novel that I'm also buddy reading with Angela. This is a King Arthur retelling that is told from the perspective of Guinevere. In the original story, you've been following King Arthur and Merlin, but then this time you follow his wife, Guinevere. And then in this book, it turns out that Guinevere is not actually Guinevere. The real Guinevere is dead because Joe killed her. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God, you literally scared.
She's actually been replaced by a forest witch. In the kingdom of Camelot, where King Arthur is ruling, magic has been banished, which means that Merlin was also banished because he's a wizard. So when magic was like banned, they had to kick Merlin out. And so Merlin sends Guinevere to kind of like infiltrate the place and marry King Arthur so that she could protect him. I like Kirsten White. She wrote 2 other books that I liked. One was called And I Darken, which was a retelling of Vlad the Impaler, who was originally a man, but she gender bends the main character to be a woman.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. She also wrote The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. It was about Frankenstein, but it was told from Elizabeth's perspective. So I think that's what she does, where she takes historical stories that you know, and then she puts it in the perspective of a woman. That's why I wanted to pick this up. I liked her other 2 books better. This one has been kind of boring to me because not much really happens in it. There isn't enough flavor. Once like I passed the halfway point, I texted Angela saying like, man, I feel like nothing is happening here. There's no like drama or anything. Basically this month was very like, there were so many books I planned on reading this month that I didn't get to because the quarantine has slowed me down. Next month, I'm basically gonna read all the other things I was supposed to be reading, along with Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, which I also don't think I would like, but Jordan picked it for a paper cut book club. Look at how tiny the text is.
Oh my God, no, there's like textbook.
I know. Why does she assume I have brain cells for this? Also, I've been getting questions about whether I can still read even though libraries are closed and we're under quarantine. Don't worry. I have so many library books I still need to read that I obviously can't return now. So now it's just mine. That's pretty much it for all the books I read in the month of March.
And that's a wrap.
I almost forgot to film a shout out because every time I hit a milestone, I will shout out another small booktuber so that they can get the clout too. I hit 130K, so I want to give a shout out to The Wild Sasha. She popped up on my radar recently because last week she made a tweet about how there was a big booktuber that was looking for other hosts for their live stream, and when she contacted them, they denied her because they said that her channel was too small. So I wanted to give her a shout out so that more people can check out her channel because Sasha is really sweet. I've known her since last year because we both read Six of Crows around the same time together, and we both talked about getting a Six of Crows tattoo, and she's just an awesome person overall. She does a lot of different kinds of videos like TBRs and hauls and opinions and tags and unboxings and pretty much everything that you can think of. She puts in a lot of hard work for her channel, so definitely check her out. I also invited her to be on a future live stream for a Paper Cut Book Club so that she could be a guest on my live show regardless of how many subscribers that she has, because that should not matter. I'll link her channel in my description below. I hope everyone is staying safe. Stay socially distant from each other. Practice what we are doing. Goodbye.
Bye.
Subscribe to Chanelle and unsubscribe from me instead. Bye.
Dear, whatever you were, I am letting you go. It's been eating me up for some time.